You're listening to the Geekscape Network.
Time to fire up the VCR. This one's my favorite. That was gold.
Welcome to Analog Jones in the Temple of Film. I'm Steve.
And I'm Matt.
And we're a VHS podcast that looks at the box art, trailers, and behind the scenes. And it's our Thanksgiving episode. Matt, what kind of adventure are we going to go on for Thanksgiving?
Oh, kids, we're having duck for Thanksgiving. We're about to go through space with Howard the Duck.
Across the sea of stars lies another world, a world almost exactly like ours. This is where he lives. He's 27 years old, single but searching. Favorite sports, windsurfing and Aikido. Favorite pastimes, cigars and sex. He has everything except fulfillment. And then one night, it happens.
Hey, good buddy, are you home?
He has a very sudden midlife crisis. He lands in Cleveland.
Do you know why you were sent to me?
Listen to me, small visitor. I can explain how you got here.
Maybe you're here for some greater purpose, some cosmic cause.
Here, he's forced to reassess his career goals.
You went to med school?
To explore new relationships. To redefine his self-image.
I'm sorry, we don't allow pets on the premises.
To adjust to a changing lifestyle.
Pull it out!
Until he discovers just who he really is.
Oh,
A duck in big trouble.
That's a duck, man!
Howard the Duck, trapped in a world he never made. Coming from George Lucas, a Willard Huyck film, a Gloria Katz production.
Quack, quack. Or that stupid quack noise that Tim Robbins makes.
Yes, his kind of weird Daffy Duck kind of impression or whatever.
Wagga, wagga, wagga. I don't even know what he's doing. So, before we get into my history on this for our Thanksgiving sort of weird family adventure fun time, what is yours, bud?
This one is one that I saw later. I kind of caught the first wave of the cult following pre-Guardians of the Galaxy, but way later than when this movie came out. I think I saw it around like 2007, 2008, around the time that like the Universal finally kind of acknowledged the movie and put out like a special edition DVD. That was the first time I had seen it. So I was like 17, 18. I was a teenager. But I do remember watching it. Like I think my parents were home and I was in high school and I was just home. It was like a Saturday afternoon. And I remember just putting it on. And I think my parents walking in on it were just totally befuddled. I was befuddled. But of course, you fall in love with it because it's just so weird. But that was the first time I had seen it, so I'm pretty fresh to the cult of Howard the Duck.
Well, I'm glad you joined the cult, because it used to be a very rare cult, or at least it seemed like it, because, back pre-internet, a lot of times this was like, I think I'm the only person who's really seen this. But then This was something that we watched in my extended family. When we went to my aunt's house, they had Howard the Duck, and this is definitely one, like Star Wars and like Willow. I was raised on the Lucas films and somewhat the Ewok films, not as much. Those were mostly like, well, I guess if this is the only thing on, because those ones are, bottom of the barrel.
the way you get your Star Wars fix if there's nothing else.
It's I don't have any weed, so I guess I'm going to drink some NyQuil. I don't know.
Right.
Somehow I'm going to get a little weird.
Yes.
And
get a fix somehow, and that was that.
But this was something that we all loved. It was bizarre. It was just something when you were young. So I get this if you're older and you put in this film and you're totally put off by this, say if you're a 70s kid or a 90s kid and above. Because let's say you saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and you saw Howard Duck at the end and you're like interested to go back into 86, kind of like what probably you and I did back when we were kids. If we saw something, it's like, oh, that was something from long ago, let's check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And you watch it and you're like, this is awful. I understand. But I'm going to tell you right now, I love this film so much. This has so much nostalgia love for it, but it's bad. And I do have a couple theories of what makes it bad. Because usually I go through and I ask people all the time, you know, and when they're like, oh, that movie's so bad, it's not even funny bad. I go, well, you didn't like Howard? And most people will be like, he was fine. I liked him. He was enjoyable. I'm like, well, you didn't like Leia Thompson as Beverly, you know, the cherry bomb? And they're like, no, she was fine. I liked her. She was likable. I'm like, oh, was it Jeffrey Jones, you know, being the Dark Overlord? They're like, no, he was kind of creepy, but, you know, a fun bad guy. I'm like, oh, was it Tim Robbins? And that one is almost like he was one of the most annoying people on screen. And I was like, I agree. I know he was trying to be the slapsticky kind of comic relief, but I think it's really him for a lot of people, and the story being too damn long.
Kind of fragmented. Like, if you just look at the structure of this movie, very strange. You know, it starts off kind of as your typical Marvel pre-Marvel Cinematic Universe, kind of your typical Marvel adaptation with a little bit of origin story, a little bit of setting you off on your adventure. But then the movie, as it goes on, takes weird kind of gaps to focus on things that I guess don't really seem important. Like, why is Howard spending this much time in this research facility or whatever it is before he escapes and inevitably comes back to it? You know, why is this diner scene so long? You know, like, as we get into the second half of this movie, the structure of the film is very strange. And I feel like that is another reason that could be pretty off-putting for people.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was saying with the story, is like the story and the structure of this, just like the whole job hunt is one of those. You could lop off the entire time he's searching for a job. He could just run away from Leah, or not run away from Leah, and just like the next night go to the bar and decide that he likes her and then get her money from the managers.
Yeah, and it just seems like it was written because of that, because there's so many scenes that could just be like lopped off. It almost seems to be like it was written sort of stream of consciousness or something like that. Like, this is a first draft, or the you know, they just threw every idea that stuck there, something like that, where there hasn't been sort of editing or streamlining where it easily could have been. Because like I said, the setup is there for the typical Marvel thing. You get the origin story, you get to know the character, you get to know all the characters, you get the setup of the kind of gallery of the characters you're going to be dealing with throughout the movie. But then, yeah, then the movie just like puts brakes on for some reason for a while. And yeah, it just seems like maybe first draft or rushed script or confused script or too many cooks. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and this is from the writers of American Graffiti, Gloria, Katz, and Willard, Huyck.
Yeah, who also did a really cool 70s horror movie called Messiah of Evil, which is like considered to be one of like the best sort of regionally made horror movies, independent from the 70s. Really cool movie. And then, yeah, kind of did a hard pivot into Lucas land after that.
Yeah, because he did Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I understand his weirdness. He's kind of good at this. With her, I don't know her as much. Oh, she also wrote Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, so I do know her. Okay, I understand her weirdness.
Yeah, I think they were writing partners because they came up, like I said, with Messiah of Evil together and worked their way through to, you know, Hollywood stuff like this. I think they're just sort of writing partners. And yeah, weird stuff. Really just exploring like weird humor and tone and, like, you know, experimenting a little bit. But I don't know if the experiment necessarily pays off here. I'm giving us a lot of criticisms early on, but I do like this movie. But we just got to talk about how fucking weird it is still, you know?
I agree with a lot of people, like, when they criticize this, because I actually think you can love this, and I completely agree with you, and hate it, and I completely agree with you most of the time. There are a few, you know, critics out there where I've heard them describe why they don't like this movie, and I think some of it's unfair. We'll talk about that. Most of that's the visual stuff. These two writers, yeah, I really assume, I don't know, but looking at the way they talked on the documentary and everything, I really do think they are much more of like throw paint at the wall writers, and then they need someone, or maybe they have to have time to edit down, whittle something down, because this movie felt rushed. And when I watched the documentary, it kind of made more sense, where they kind of wanted this to be an animation, but that takes years. And Universal wanted this movie out by the summer. So I think they did this movie in it was less than a year.
Yeah, that's kind of a fast turnaround for something this effects heavy and makeup heavy. That's too fast. So I that could be a result of the problem there.
Yeah, and this, came from George Lucas. This wasn't their passion project. So this came from Lucas. He discovered the comic book. He thought it was great. He thought it would be a great transition, away from Star Wars and Indiana Jones, honestly, where he could still world build. But he didn't have time. His universe with the Lucas films and all the things he was doing at this point in the 80s, his universe was becoming too big. So he had to, give this to two people he trusted. These two writers from American Graffiti, which goes all the way back to, was American Graffiti the second movie he ever directed, THX being the first?
I believe so.
Yeah. So, he gave it to people he had worked with. He trusted them, and he gave them the money, and he worked with, he was part of the behind the scenes when it came to the visuals. But I don't think he was really on set when it came to the storytelling. Because Lucas, kind of shies away from that. At least the acting part of it in the dialogue. He's just kind of hands off. I mean, a lot of actors, you've heard their interviews where they're like, hey, I think Lucas, we could do this, and maybe they could say that. And he'd be like, let's do the script first. Yeah. Okay, we're done. It's just like, he doesn't like that shit. That's fine. He's a visual world builder. I get it. He's an overarching story guy.
And it works for him, And no one's told him no, you know what I mean? Or if they have told him no, they've been proven wrong because he prints money, so,
He does. He built a universe. He became the person that he hates. And now he's walking away with $4+ billion. He's fine.
Exactly.
So let's get into this. The front of this VHS, if we're walking down the video store, this is one I really don't know if we were attracted to this VHS. And really it's because it was inside of my, the family, extended family. So we'd go over to my aunt's. I don't know if we actually ever owned this, but this always just seemed to be there. So I don't really know if this was something that attracted me, because the VHS, just has Howard the Duck, in that nice comic fun font. Very much, I would say, 50s comic book font.
Yeah, it definitely has a Dick Tracy meets like Inspector Gadget or something kind of fun comic booky font.
Yeah, and it's got George Lucas presents Howard the Duck, and then it says William Hutz. How do you say his last name? Is it Hux?
I don't know. Willard Huyck? I don't know.
Huck?
Huyck?
I don't know. And Gloria Katz. At least she's easy. I know what hers is. But they're really tiny though. Lucas and so I'm wondering if all three of them were like, let's make this small. I know when they gave this to test audiences, it went very poorly. And then right when it hit the theater, they basically did the whole let's go on vacation and get away from this because it's not doing well. It shows Howard the Duck sitting on his recliner. He's got his rolling egg. Ha 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 ha, get it? And it's got Beverly Sizzles on it, and it shows Leah Thompson on the front. Leah Thompson. Wait, is it Leah Thompson?
I think it's Leah, yeah.
Yeah, Leah Thompson on the front. So she was so hot in the 80s, it was ridiculous. I mean, she was making out with Michael J. Fox, and then she's making out with a duck. She's all over the place. But she's so damn likable.
What a early part of your career, hooking up with a duck and hooking up with your son. Like
yeah. Oh man. And I bet she went, and did I catch this in the documentary right? She went from the set of Back to the Future to the set of Howard the Duck.
I think so, because Time Out, right? And it's both Universal, so probably they were filming next door. So I would make sense. It would Time Out right there, only a year apart.
Yeah, so I'm thinking she went Howard the Duck, Back to the Future, somewhere around there, Howard the Duck, And then like a few years later, maybe a year later, even, who knows, about 2 years later, Back to the Future 2 and then Back to the Future 3 back to back. So that's pretty, wow, what a way to start your career. I mean, she had been, working before that. She was in Jaws 3D, and I know she was in Red Dawn. That was it.
I think, isn't she in All the Right Moves also? The Tom Cruise football one?
Yeah, she is. I forgot. Yeah. I forget about that one. That's where Tom Cruise actually has his original jacked up teeth.
Nice.
Every time I talk to someone about that, a lot of people bring that up.
I've never seen it. I just remember hearing about that one.
Sports movie, football, trying to get out of the small town, football, high school star movie, I think.
Yeah, that's why I haven't seen it. That's absolutely not my thing, but to each their own.
Sidebar, the way I saw that originally, no, this is no joke. Substitute teacher was teaching the class one day, and I don't know how they had that movie. They didn't see. I don't think that's appropriate for a high school movie. I'm pretty sure there was something in there where the teacher was like, "Ugh, don't tell anyone, folks."
Yeah, there's a sex scene because they're both naked in it. Yeah, I think you see she's naked, and Tom Cruise is. You get a little peek at all of the crews too. So. Yeah, that's a bit much for a school movie, I feel like.
And there's some swearing too. I think the substitute teacher like ran up and started like fast forwarding, like, oh no. Dude, you got to watch the tape before you just stick it in, man.
Hey, we talked about it already. That's how I saw Dante's Peak, so go figure.
Yeah. Substitute teachers back in the day. Yep. I don't know how they are nowadays, but back in the day, it was just like, hi, whatever. Just give me my money. I'm out.
Wheel the TV in here, and this is what's laying around, so let's do it.
It's awesome. Anyway, back into the actual V8 sidebar. Over. Looking at this, it's a pretty simple, super simple, actually, VHS cover. Now, your DVD cover that you have is a little bit different, right?
Yeah, it's just the egg with Howard's feet and Bill sticking out of it with like a cracked egg. I feel like this was a theatrical poster, or maybe the teaser poster or something for it. But yeah, all the DVDs and things, past the VHS all have this cover.
The one I have, now how I got this on DVD before it came out on DVD. When DVDs were first coming out, and we were all learning about ordering stuff online, I went and actually bought a German release of this that had that with the Duck's Bill coming, Howard the Duck's Bill coming out with a cigar, and it played on our DVD player. So I had this movie before anyone else on DVD. It is a terrible DVD, but my friends were like, "Dude, where did you get this?" And I go, "Germany."
You're right. This one was like hard to find until this 2008 release on DVD. This, you could only get it on VHS or nothing. Like that was it. So yeah, you had to import it. That was the only way you could. It was like kind of like a Night of the Creeps kind of situation, which like nowadays it's crazy to think with these kind of cult movies getting releases. But back when we were coming up, it was VHS or nothing. And if your video store didn't have that VHS, or as the DVDs were starting to take over, you just couldn't find those VHS anymore. You just couldn't see this movie, and this was one of them.
So I think that's why everyone thought it was so cool, even though I don't think any of them really realized it was essentially the VHS rip. They just used some type of software to barely improve it. Just enough to actually sell it. Because I think this movie actually did really well in Germany and Italy.
That's funny.
So for some reason, those two parts of Europe, and I'm sure a few other ones, but those are the two big names, they did well. Germany makes sense to me because Germany kind of likes this warped absurdity.
Yeah, they like big absurdity. Yeah, definitely like duck tits would be like a thing that they probably would be into.
You're spoiling it, man. That's like my biggest thing I like to talk about at the beginning. Duck boobs.
That was a shocking one, seeing this for the first time. I don't know what was more shocking, like duck nudity or Leah Thompson trying to hook up with the duck. Both uncomfortable, nonetheless.
Yeah, flipping it over to the back, we've got, the font's really cool in there. We've got all three of them are actually screenshots from the film. Jeffrey Jones is just sitting there with his feather that they find. You got Leah Thompson in the front here, and then also Leah Thompson with Howard the Duck. And I think it's the diner scene when she's got that amazing shirt on.
Her fashion is incredible. Well, throughout. We'll just say it. We'll just say it now. It's a wonderful 80s look.
Yes, and I got a bone to pick with some random critic that I read online. He was sitting there saying, he's just like, it looks like she just had, every day she had a fashion mistake. I was like, whoa, she's awesome, dude. What are you talking about? Everything, I was so excited every new scene it was going to be with her, and it was like, what is she going to wear? Every scene is something different.
Yeah, what kind of complaint is that? I mean, this is a big budget 80s movie. Of course, it's like they change outfits every scene. Like, have you seen a movie before? Like, that's how it works.
Well, I looked at him, and he looked like he was probably born in, like, 1995.
Oh, yeah, he just doesn't understand. Okay.
Yeah. So here we go. We got color, 1 hour, 51 minutes. Wow, that's too long for a Howard the Duck movie. 90 minutes, folks.
Yep.
Okay, here we go. The description. Movie wizard George Lucas presents this comedy adventure about a fast-talking, cigar-chomping, beer-loving duck from a parallel universe who somehow winds up in Cleveland. Oh, we should talk about that throughout this. I guess the comic book, did they actually use Cleveland? I don't know. Let's figure it out together. The incredible fantasy has Howard, the object of everybody's desire, in love with the rock star Leah Thompson, and doing battle with the evil dark overlord as he attempts to return to his own planet. The wacky, elaborately produced spoof of life love comic books. Okay, wait, what? Elaborately produced spoof of life love comic books and horror movies from the team of Willard, Huyck, and Gloria Katz features the songs of Thomas Dolby and the special effects magic of George Lucas's Industrial Light and Magic Company. That was a weird sentence. Elaborately produced spoof of life, love comic books, and horror films. What?
Also, I don't see how this is a spoof of horror movies at all. Like,
no, that was the comic book.
The comic book was a spoof of horror. Yeah, because it doesn't come across in the movie at all.
They make it sound like it's the movie. This is more of just a dark, absurd comedy.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the Dark Overlord stuff and the monster at the end and everything, but I don't think it doesn't feel like a horror movie at all. It feels like a comic book adventure movie.
Yeah, and this is definitely a lot like Beetlejuice and a lot like Little Monsters, where it seems like Pee-wee's Big Adventure kind of helped these types of films come along in the 80s. But I just think this was the mid and late 80s as we got this stuff. This, like, just absurdity.
This was inevitable in the mid 80s.
Yeah, and I'm glad we did because, I mean, it just propelled a lot of the 80s kids like me. And it, you know, obviously probably trickled over to some 90s kids. Not as much because I'm sure some parents are like, I'm not buying you that. I saw that. No.
And I missed it too as a kid in the 90s because my video store didn't have it. And I'm assuming a lot of 90s kids might have had the same thing where their video store just didn't have it anymore because it probably wasn't moving. It probably wasn't renting. It probably wasn't selling. They probably got rid of them or sold them, you know, previously viewed and then just didn't restock because my video stores didn't even have this movie.
It didn't really make it known in the documentary, but Lucas really kind of just pretended like this didn't happen.
Yeah, I do sort of remember that vibe when this DVD came out. It was kind of a big deal that it was being sort of acknowledged finally.
Yeah, he would have talked about Willow or something like that long before this. This was just a movie where it happened, it didn't work out, moving on. Now, it wasn't as bad as, say, the Christmas special where he just, you know, it said, like, if I had a hammer, I'd smash every copy of that. Now, he tried to bury that. I don't think he tried to bury Howard the Duck. He just didn't talk about it.
Yeah, just sort of let it fade as opposed to seek to destroy it. It just sort of let it fade into obscurity.
Probably smart. Other than now, I don't think he'd talk about it, but there's something fun about when they embrace it. What shocks me is it's not as big a financial failure as I always thought, because the budget was around $37 million, box office $38 million. I'm sure there was some marketing money spent, so they probably lost a little bit, Who knows if they made any money in the home video sales, but I mean, my family sure liked it. So I'm thinking they broke even, or it was, a little bit of a loss. Not terrible, but it was the critical failure that I think really scarred a lot of them, and especially the writing duo, Gloria Katz and Willard Huyck. I don't think they didn't do as much in the 90s, and I would assume it's because of this.
Yeah, that didn't help their chances of bouncing back at all. Yeah, it really wasn't until the sort of wave of cult cinema that like the Anchor Bays and stuff brought into the world in the 2000s that this movie was kind of rediscovered. It wasn't until DVD that this movie found its first second life, and then its second life was with Guardians of the Galaxy, as we mentioned, or whatever. But it really wasn't until we started kind of looking back on these things in the 2000s that anybody even acknowledged that this was a thing.
So it's time to actually pop this tape in. And where I come from, we never say die. I didn't get all that. He was doing that multiple times in this film. Did you catch that?
I heard it. I can specifically remember hearing it one time at least. And what is that like a reference to Goonies, or is that just a thing that he says in the comic books, or what is that?
I don't know. I've only read one of his comic books. Because, I mean, there's only the original run, I don't know, 30 comics. It's not much. This was not exactly like a super popular character. This movie actually made him more popular because it was so infamous. Like, have you seen that movie? And then that's how people usually talked about this film in the 90s. Like, they'd have to whisper it. Have you seen that? If they went to my house, be like, have you seen that? Yeah, I fucking love that. I don't know. That's really weird. Feature presentation time.
And now, our feature presentation.
We start this out in a world that I kind of want to go swimming in. I just want to hang out in this set. I want to know how much they did of these little kind of just stupid jokes of like his world's exactly the same except, Mallard. It's ducks.
Yeah, it's like a Smurf world where everything is kind of duck puns for everyday life.
Yeah, I wonder how much fabulous art's around, because I've always wanted that Howard the Duck, Indiana Jones poster.
Yeah, I wonder if you could find that on eBay or something. I wonder if somebody has that. I just can imagine that being something that would just like go up on eBay one day. Somebody would be like, "Oh, we found this in a warehouse and we don't want it. Give us $100 and we'll give it to you."
Done. If I could get a big enough copy of it, that'd be so amazing to print that out.
That's a good silly inside reference one for sure.
So it's inside his universe, and we get the commercials are fantastic.
Why not take a shot of new Shorts Blaster? Huh? It's guaranteed to wipe out feather fungus in even the most active crotches.
Shorts Blaster.
In addition, you won a new car. But that's not all.
Oh, Fred, I love you so much. It hurts. Like Cancer Society.
$79.95? Forget it! $49.99? No way! I'm crazy, Webby, and my prices are insane!
Where it's just like a jacket or whatever it is. I don't know. But he pulls out the Play Duck, the Playboy magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I'm trying to think. Now, as a kid, I never picked this up, but as an adult right away, I'm like, is Howard about to have a little happy time here before he gets sucked into the portal?
I think so, because this movie is one of those movies where it's like, who is this for? Because some of the silly stuff with Howard is definitely for kids, and this is a PG-rated movie. But then stuff like this, like you're talking about here, like this, the duck boobs, and like them almost having sex, the Duck and Leah Thompson. This is clearly for adults, and it's like another one of these confused movies where it doesn't really know its audience. Because I think Howard the Duck is going to have some alone time with his Play Duck magazine here, and it's kids aren't going to get this, and adults are like, "What am I looking at?"
I did not get it at all. But then when he gets sucked through the portal, I mean, the duck tits is just something that has rattled me as a kid into adulthood. I still, since it's the 80s, I get how it got past, the PG rating. Okay.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe it was just like, wow, it's a duck. It's not really a human. Maybe they got away for it. They got away with that. I don't know. Maybe Lucas put some money underneath the table so they didn't have to make it PG-13 and get more families into the theater, or at least renting it. I don't know. But as an adult watching it, that is right where you get the, what the hell is this? Like,
right.
Who is this for?
Yes. Like, I can't imagine. I guess, kids, I think kids think nudity is funny. So maybe for kids, they thought I was fun. But it is pushing a weird, I don't know. It's pushing a weird button, having just like frank duck nudity in the movie that it is unsettling.
So then it's got this big, beginning, like, and then the beginning we had Howard the Duck. And, I'm looking at that. Okay, so this seems like they want to make a really big film. This beginning, this feels like it wants to be bombastic.
Yeah.
And then we go straight into Cleveland, and I'm like, wow. It goes from this bombastic announcement of this new universe we're about to enter, and then we are in Cleveland. Now, no offense to anyone who's from Cleveland, Ohio, but if they would have then landed in St. Louis, Missouri, where I'm from, I would have said the same thing. Like, Midwest, and we choose Cleveland? That's not even the Midwest. It's like the Mideast.
It's the Masters of the Universe effect, where it's like, oh, you've got this cool world, but they're just on Earth in the 80s.
Yeah. Because, they couldn't afford to have all these ducks running around. And even that, like all those ducks. Now, I haven't actually zoomed in on those commercials, but I assume those are less quality ducks compared to Howard the Duck, which took like 4, operators to make his face work.
Yeah, I can't imagine them wanting to do a whole slew of a duck population like that. I feel like that would have been a nightmare. And even for $37 million in 1986, I still feel like that it wouldn't be possible.
No, there's actually stuff I've read on the Howard the Duck animatronic mask and everything basically cost about $1 million. Because they spent so much time and money trying to figure out, you had 4 puppeteers with their little radio controlled whatever, operating this. And this isn't something that was hardwired. This was being done with remote controls. This was kind of amazing. And Leah Thompson was saying that like sometimes the face would get all weird because like a plane would fly over or someone would be closing their garage door because this is all like radio waves controlling it.
Yeah, and props to Ed Gale for his performance in the suit here, that he's got to deal with that stuff too, and also walk around and perform while, like, a bunch of puppeteers and animatronic people are working his face and his, everything like that. So major props for him also dealing with that all day long.
I also find it funny that most of this movie takes place at night or indoors for the sheer fact that the kid who was playing Howard the Duck basically couldn't work at night. So it's Ed Gale. He basically just took over the role because, working with the kid was just kind of a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm surprised they didn't know that right away. I know the whole reason that they didn't want Ed Gale at the beginning was because he was 1 inch too tall, which I think is just stupid. Like, no one gives a shit. No one watched this movie and went, Howard the Duck's a little bit tall. I need a shorter Howard the Duck. No one in the audience gives a shit about that.
Well, there was no one in the audience in 1964 period. So.
Well, a little bit. It made over $30 million in the box office.
There's a little bit. It's true.
And all of that is just because of the Lucas name. That's it. No one was, there's very few people, except a few, like obscure people like you and I, if we were, at our ages now in the 80s, have been like, I know Howard the Duck. I'm going to watch that. And it's got Lucas's name on it. I'm there, dude. And when we would have walked out of the theater, like, what the fuck was that?
And why was it so awesome?
High five.
Yeah, right. That would be today.
Basically, what you're saying is you want a Satan Slut's motorcycle jacket after watching this film.
Basically, yes.
I didn't actually ever notice what the motorcycles. It's an all-female motorcycle group. And then because of the documentary, I happened to pause it when the motorcycle group was passing by at the beginning of this film, when Howard the Duck is abused when he first gets into Cleveland. And I gotta admit, I do want that jacket. If you saw someone, or at least me, let's use me, it's really me. If I saw someone walking around in a Satan Sluts leather jacket from Howard the Duck, I would flip out. Oh my God!
Yeah, I definitely want one. I definitely think I really think those are cool for sure. Again, who's this for?
I don't know. I'm telling you, it's for like a sliver of a group. It's for the weirdos who are like part of like the funky sci-fi horror community.
Yeah,
but not like the core of them.
No,
I'm talking to like the outer rim where it's you or I and a few other people that we know that probably listen to this show, where they're like, yeah, it's not my typical shit, but I'll take it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, just going off that, a quick sidebar, like since, discovering this movie and sort of the cult around it, it's only been probably 12, 13 years since I've seen this movie for the first time, but I've now seen this like a ton of times since then.
I know. Every time I watch it, I feel a little sad inside and a little happy outside. I don't know why.
Yeah, it is a weird thing. Another like just like sidebar too about this movie, like for maybe listeners that don't remember or know this, like in the 80s, like a Marvel movie wasn't like what it is today. People, like we were talking about how we would definitely want to see this if we were us today then, but like it wasn't like people were running out to see every new Marvel movie in 1986 either. Like nobody cared. They weren't really taken seriously like they are today.
No, essentially it was just Superman at this point. And I don't think anyone thought you could do any more superhero movies. I'm sure there were some people, a lot of people inside Hollywood is just like, it's a one-off thing. They got the best of the best to do the Superman series. And it was, I think they had Superman 1 and 2 at this point. Maybe 3. When did 3 come out?
I have no idea. Superman's a total blind spot for me. I don't know any of those movies.
Okay. Superman 3 was 83 and Superman 4 was 87. Okay. I did not know that. I thought Superman 4 was like 90 almost.
Well, who knows when it would have came out, because wasn't that during the collapse of canon, so it could have come out later.
Well, this was just before Batman, which, I mean, Batman is the one, and even Batman didn't exactly propel a bunch of new superheroes to come out. It still was just Superman, then Batman.
Yeah, and we've talked about it countless times. Batman more inspired the Burton-esque kind of movies versus superhero kind of movies. So, we just didn't have that superhero boom. So, yeah, Howard the Duck, again, like, who is this for? Like, there weren't Marvel fans yet. This is Satan Sluts is the jackets in here. It's just like, it's for adults, but for kids. There is no real fan base for this thing. And you even talked about it too earlier. Like, there weren't that many of these comic books. So, like, who is this movie? How is this ever going to work?
I don't know. I mean, really, it wasn't until Blade and X-Men came out that we had the superhero boom. And, of course, Spider-Man. Yeah, really, it was... I don't know. I just... This is terrible preparation. And it really should have been an animation. And this is just dumb to... quickly go through this. When it comes to money, I'm thinking about this as like a producer or any, someone inside of a production house. I would have voted no on this because I would have been like, this is too obscure. And if Lucas, if we're not having a big name director on this, I'm not trusting it. Fine, I'll take the writers, but this is too out there, too weird. I need someone that I trust. And that's why a lot of movies, from these people will say like Hollywood's too conservative. Well, yeah, if I'm spending $30 million, I'm going to feel good about it. I feel like this only got made because of Lucas's weight.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm glad it got made because, you and I get to talk about it and a lot of other people in conventions where every time we're simultaneously laughing at the film and laughing with the film.
It is like you've mentioned. It's like you can't look at this movie without seeing the glaring errors, like everything that's wrong with it. But you can still love it, But you've got like this is not one that you can like kind of put the blinders on for. Like this is not one that you can just like unabashedly love. You got to be like, okay, there's a lot wrong here, but it is entertaining.
I will just go through my notes, so we can just get through this film, because I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, and if they haven't, you need to. Not because it's like will change your life. You need to see it because it will change your life.
It's so strange. It's so strange. You just have to experience it at least once, and if you don't like it, that's fine. Plenty of people don't like it, but you just got to see it to know like how weird this really is.
Yeah. I feel like the change your life moment, it's not so much like, wow, I can't believe I never saw that film, and I'm really just going to look at films differently the rest of my life. No, it's more like, wow, I can't believe I've never gone down this weird rabbit hole to know how funky life can get. Like, it's just weird.
It's true. It is like you're saying, you didn't know how weird it could get. Like, this is a good gateway drug too for cult movies and weird movies and like forgotten movies. Like, it is a good gateway drug because you're like, wow, they made movies this weird that nobody saw. Okay.
Well, and then the one point where Leah Thompson, Beverly's character, opens up Howard the Duck's wallet and there's an open condom in there.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, Howard. And I'm like, they didn't even put it in a little wrapper.
Yeah.
And I guess since they have boobs, they got junk too.
Right. They must have all the functional parts.
They're humanoid mallards that somehow, I don't know. I just, again, the condom thing as a kid, I did not get that at all. Just like I didn't get the condom joke in The Mask.
Yeah, I didn't either. I didn't get that joke until like recently. That one just kept going over my head. And then I think the moment where I really am like, whoa, with this movie is when then they almost hook up. When they're laying in the bed together and it's like gonna happen. And I'm like, whoa, movie, whoa.
Well, and then also that point, because Jennings and whatever, Phil, is that his name? Tim Robbins?
So. Yeah.
How's it hanging, Phil? Every time I hear Phil.
I think I literally think the same thing too.
And then they like peek out, they peek just over like whatever she's got blocking her bed, because I guess she lives with all the band members.
I don't know, because we never see them in there. Yeah, we see them at the show, but we don't see them in the apartment, which for like Cleveland and supposed to be struggling artist is like a gigantic fucking apartment, of course, like, and kind of gorgeous in its disaster.
They do this in all of it, and we always, I mean, if you know anything about filming, you know why these big old lofts are always in these movies is because there's so much space for the camera to move around.
Right. But no way that a struggling bar rock star can afford that place.
No, not at all. I mean, she's barely getting any money because Howard the Duck has to like beat up her manager after he loses his sex working cleanup guy job. What the fuck was he doing?
I've already forgot about this. Yeah, he's a jizz mopper at a bathhouse, and it's or whatever this
whatever
place is.
I don't
the sex den. Ew, gross. Why is this in a kids movie? He's a jizz mopper, and I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable. I forgot this scene again. I always forget it until it happens, where they're like, I got a job for you, when he goes to the unemployment office or whatever, and then like, oh my god, and he literally is like mopping the jizz at one point off the floor, and I'm like, ew.
Jeffrey Jones is probably in that bathhouse.
Oh boy.
What
I was just saying I am not touching that one. Like, he already did enough of it.
Well, I mean, Ed Gale was in the suit at this time, not the boy. So did you? That's why
Safer.
Jeffrey Jones was. That's not funny. I'm not gonna go down that. I know where I'm going with that joke, and I'm gonna quit.
Yeah, everybody knows the punchline there. So
yeah, and again with so Beverly's just running around in her underwear half the time they're in this apartment. And I always forget how much of a sex idol she was for a short period of time, because she's just a lady who is good looking at every moment of her life. Even now, when you see her in that documentary where she's in her 50s, I'm like, what are you taking?
Yeah, the eternal life that she has. This she looks the same basically.
I know she's got a few wrinkles, and it would be like one of that one. She's like, oh, I'm just falling apart, and I could see like every woman looking at her like, I hate you.
Yeah, stunning. She's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, we'll just go to the Jennings, the Dark Overlord, because his transformation is awesome. It is one of the best. I don't know, meth addict. I don't even know how to describe what he turns into.
Yeah, he's basically like, it's Jeffrey Jones, how I kind of imagine Jeffrey Jones wakes up in the morning. Just like he's got this cracked skin, and like he gets the voice, the evil voice, and his like eyes are changing, and he's like, his hair's all crazy.
Holy shit, he's Doc Brown on crack.
Yes, basically he's just Doc Brown, meth head, living under an underpass or whatever. That's what and the creature he turns into. I will say the stop motion effects when he does transform fully into the Dark Overlord creature, that thing looks amazing. And to your point too, the makeup of his change is really good too.
Yeah, I mean that Dark Overlord scorpion vagina mouth thing.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit like Predator.
Yeah, something between like Predator and like something that came later than Howard the Duck, but like Predator and like the Violator from Spawn.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like.
That's a good comparison right there. Yeah, I mean, this is Phil Tippett at his like highest amount. I mean, after this, he did Ed 209. The guy's just amazing. Spectacular guy, but he also hated doing this, and it was his damn fault, and he even admits it. He's just like, I just went crazy with this model, and then I realized, oh shit, I gotta animate this. But he said luckily this film did him a favor where they're like, yeah, we want to keep this where the actual stop motion is under, I think they said 3 minutes, which I never realized that there is that little stop motion in this, but it feels like there's a lot more. And I'm assuming because the impact of the monster is so big.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be. It looks so good. And like, almost like, it's stop motion because, we've seen movies before, but it almost looks real,
Yeah, I think you could take that stop motion and someone, a professional could go in and clean up a little bit with some CG, animation in it. And it would look almost, like ridiculously real, because I've always wondered how good it can look. We've seen it in a few, stop motion films, but I wonder with something like this, if you could have a professional animator go into it or a small team and like take what Phil Tippett has and clean up some of the motion, that he can't quite get out of that. You can only get so much in stop motion. That's why something like Ed 209 works so well, because it's robotic. But I mean, obviously I love stop motion, but if you could just combine a little bit of the CG animation with the stop motion, I wonder what we could get.
Yeah, like I agree. If you could kind of clean up some of the like motion blur, it would just be real at that point, Yeah,
I think it would look really cool and badass. But yeah, I mean, I guess the only other thing I have to... So the diner scene is, and you were saying like that slows up the movie so much. What I just don't get is like, the reaction of humans are never consistent in this world. And I get all humans are different, it's case by case. But basically you have an extreme reaction where they're afraid of the duck or they want to kill the duck. And I always wonder, because you get into the diner and they're like, the cook wants to like chop his head off. They want to murder this duck.
Chicken fried! Where's the SPCA when you need them? I am not amused! I'm gonna barbecue your bill, bird!
Oh, great duck in heaven. Is this the end of ours?
Oh, there's gonna be more violence! I hate violence! You gotta go in there and beat them up!
Jennings! Jennings!
Come on!
Don't just sit
down.
there!
Come
This
on.
is serious! They're gonna cook me! Take that!
Any last words?
Yeah. Jennings!
Also combined with even too, like a third reaction is just total indifference. Like, it's just like, oh, it's a duck person, crazy. Or they're like, yeah, kill it. Or, yeah, exactly. Like, everybody's reaction is different, but none of them seem to be like the normal reaction.
The only one who kind of have a normal reaction is the waitress, where she's like, "Oh, cool costume." So I guess maybe it's not really a reaction because she doesn't know. But, it's either I want to kill it or I want to bone it.
Yeah, cute. Gross.
And it's only Leah Thompson who, by the way, in that documentary, she thought it was hilarious that she wanted to possibly sleep with Howard. And I don't get that.
I mean, I'm of the mind of both. I think it's disgusting and gross and weird, but it is also kind of hilarious.
Yeah, like if this was an animation, it would have been fine because they're both animated and you'd have been like, that's weird. But then again, you couldn't do that with kids because if it's an animation, you got to clearly make it more for kids if you want it to sell to general audiences, I would think. But then again, apparently this universe, these writers just didn't give a shit about that.
Right. And God bless them for it.
Because their original idea when they're like, well, initially we wanted to do Howard the Duck in Hawaii. And I just like slapped my forehead. I'm like, why? What is up with this? Like, Beetlejuice in Hawaii is a sequel and Howard the Duck in Hawaii. What? And then their second choice is Cleveland?
Well, we can't get Hawaii. Might as well get that other paradise. Cleveland, Ohio.
Like, what? Oh, and again, I am sure there's great people from Cleveland. I'm just like, it's not a great place to take. Well, you can film in Cleveland and pretend it's somewhere else. Fine. But I just don't think you want I don't know. Maybe it's perfect that a duck movie... It takes place in Cleveland. Maybe that's just how it should be.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no problem with Cleveland, but also I'm not like super jazzed about Cleveland either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. It's just so odd. There's just so much oddities to this film, and yet I still love it. But what I've really thought like another out of place scene is the plane.
Yeah, very silly. This feels kind of a little like Rocketeer-esque a little bit, but like not as good, obviously. It just feels out of place in this movie.
Yeah, it does. It feels almost like a climax.
Yeah, and then it's not because we still have to do the thing. And here's the thing with the Dark Overlord. That's your threat. That's your villain. Really not introduced until like the last 30 minutes of the movie when they're like, all right, Howard, this is how we can get you back. Something got through. Jeffrey Jones is now this guy. Now he's here. You could have taken all that you pack in the last half hour and put that throughout and not have stuff like the unemployment stuff, the jizz mopper scene, the diner, it's all this stuff that slows it down. They could have expanded the story that they kind of rush in the last act here.
No, if you're going to do a fish out of water like this and you're going to introduce the bad guy, you got to do it right away.
Exactly.
Like Howard and the Dark Overlord both arrive in Cleveland at the same time and they split up, but we follow Howard. And then he's like, there's something down here that tried to kill me at the beginning. Say the Dark Overlord didn't have the power and it was dying and needed a body. Found the scientist. Maybe not even shoot him down into like an alley. Shoot him down into the actual facility where they came. We see the Dark Overlord enter the scientist, but only Howard the Duck sees it. And then they're split up. And the whole time he's like, I got to get back to that facility. I don't know where the hell it is, though. And I'm telling you, the Dark Overlord is in that dude.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, sure, Howard. Sure.
And I think that structure that you're talking about here would have definitely made the movie feel a little bit more complete and cohesive because that's kind of what they're setting up with this movie, but they're not delivering on it until the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, basically this movie doesn't start until 45 minutes in, even though the very beginning of this film, it starts quickly where they introduce Howard to Beverly fast. But there's also a part at the beginning I got to mention where everyone thinks Howard is a child in this bar. And then, I don't know, the bouncer grabs him and he goes, I know a kid when I sees him. And then just chucks him into the alley like 20 feet. And I'm like, what? If you saw a kid in the bar.
That's how we treated children in 1986. Don't you remember?
Holy shit. Again, who's this for? Like, I would have get if you just would have thrown the kid out and say the kid would have tripped into the ground. Well, obviously it's Howard the Duck. You know what I mean? But if you think it's a child, I love that your first instinct is throw him as far as I can into the alley.
Yeah, hurt him. This kid shouldn't be here. Let's inflict pain on him.
Yeah. That's basically the reaction to a lot of people. If it isn't physical violence, it's making a mop up cum.
Yeah. Oh.
Gross. I even feel dirty just saying that sentence.
Yes, because this isn't a PG film.
Yeah. Just imagine going home that night after shooting that scene like, did we just do this?
Yeah, did nobody think that was like a weird thing to have in a kids movie? Did that never occur to anybody when they were making this?
I don't know. That'll end my notes. I don't have anything else to say about this movie because it's just, I mean, I'm still smiling though because this film makes me smile.
Same. I do, like, in summation. I've said a lot of negative things about this movie, but yeah, obviously I love this movie. I can't help it. It's so weird and bizarre. But I can't, it's also at the same time, it's like, I have to know, I recommend it to everybody because they have to see how weird it is, but I don't know who I could recommend it to that would love it because it's so strange, you know? Like, I recommended everybody to check out once, but I don't know who's going to come away with really loving this one.
The weirdos. Me. You. I mean, Howard the Duck shot an arrow through my heart.
Yeah, weirdos, if you haven't seen this one's right up your alley. So you got to check out Howard the Duck.
It really is. I absolutely love it. Let's go on to the museum.
This is the second time I've had to reclaim my property from you.
That belongs in a museum.
So do you.
This is the part of the show where we go out into the film jungle. Just like Indy, we're bringing something back to our museum, good or bad. So this is kind of like part of our Lucas wing of the museum too.
Yeah, we've got a few now. We've covered some Star Warses. We've covered some Howard the Duck now. Like we'll make our way through Lucas, I'm sure.
I guess one good thing I'd put in this film, there's two right away, and I'm just going to mention one, and then if you don't mention it, I'll mention it again. The lip syncing with Zien, whatever his name is, it's Chip something, and the duck bill. Pretty damn good. I'm impressed. With an animatronic face like that, you would think the lip syncing would be bad, and I thought it was pretty damn good.
I agree, actually. I think the effects work all around was really good. Like I was talking about Ed Gale's kind of performance mixed with the animatronics. He did such a good job. And then, the voice over for it matches. It never takes you out of it at all. So I think that's a good one. I think they did a really good job with that.
Yeah, what you got?
I'm just gonna put in duck boobs because it's the first thing. It's the first thing that shoots you into this world. I mean, we get Jock Itch and we get him looking at Play Duck, but that's a little more playful. Duck boobs is the first time you're confronted with the adult nature of this movie. So I'm gonna put it in the museum. I can't not. I have to.
So you're gonna quack foo kick that thing in right into the museum?
Yep, that's right.
Quack foo. Man, so many of these puns. I'm just wondering if these writers, when they were writing this script, if they're like, let's just put everything in because, Lucas isn't going to let us keep all this. And then Lucas is like, I read it. And, guys, let's make this film. What?
Yeah. And it's got more duck puns than Mr. Freeze puns in Batman and Robin.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Howard the Duck versus Arnold's Mr. Freeze.
Oh, my God.
Could you imagine that rap battle? Our ears would bleed. Still watch it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All in.
This is guaranteed to kill you. All right, here's my money.
Yeah,
Let's
right.
do it.
I'll watch it.
It's 2020. Fuck it. Let's go out with a bang.
That's right. Mr. Freeze and Howard the Duck. Puns. Here we go.
That'll end it this week. And happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I know a lot of people won't see their family, and some people, will just break all the rules. Whatever. There's nothing we can do. I'm not going to judge. Fuck it. I'm not going to get to see my family.
Yeah, I'll judge. I'm not going anywhere, so you shouldn't either. And if you're going somewhere and you're going to be around a lot of people, wear a mask or something, or stay outside. Please.
Wear your Howard the Duck mask.
That's right. Wear your duck bill. Something. But happy Thanksgiving. And if we're saying things we're thankful for, I am thankful for you, dear listeners, for getting us this far. And we're still doing it.
Some of you really, really like us.
Yeah. And I'm thankful for those who hate us too.
I'm thankful that Madonna didn't star in this film.
Yes, same.
How weird would that have been?
I mean, we know how weird it was when she was in Dick Tracy, so we covered that.
Yeah, another weird noir. I mean, technically that was 90s, but let's just say it was 80s.
Yeah, they made it in the 80s. So.
Yeah. Oh, man. They really love to put their weirdness in noir films then.
Yeah, noir was like a thing, too. It was so hot at this time. And it's another thing I think people that are younger don't realize. Like, we had a ton of these kind of... Everything was like a noir movie coming out in the late 80s, early 90s. We had so many of these.
Yeah, we really did. It was not rare at that time. It was everywhere. Oh, Tim Robbins. You will always be so annoying to me in this film. I don't understand why they made him like this either. And I don't understand what Tim Robbins was to Beverly.
Yeah, were they just friends? Was he in love with her? What? I don't know. But yeah, I agree with you. He's pretty annoying. And I generally, I feel like Tim Robbins. Like, he's not one of my favorites or anything, but I feel like I generally like him when he shows up in a movie. But yes, here, very annoying.
Mm-hmm. That'll wrap it up this week. We'll come back with a no-theme December. All right, everyone. Remember to be kind.
And rewind.